do you know about Han?
We are investing in corruption.
We know everything. We can prove nothing. We want you to go in there as our agent. Get us our evidence. This is where you'll be going. An island fortress, really.
Sterling Silliphant called me up one day and she says,
Have you met, you know Bruce Lee?
I said, who? No, I don't know Bruce.
Well, he's the greatest there is. Absolutely greatest instructor. He's brilliant. You got to meet him.
I said, oh, well, yeah, sure, okay, I'll meet him, you know.
We were just getting started and having been executives at Warner Brothers, and Sterling Silliphant and James Coburn came to us with a script called The Silent Flute that Sterling had written for Bruce to star in.
And then Bruce and I became great friends. I mean, we went out, we went to dinner, we talked about martial arts. He showed me some of the films, and I got very interested in the Chinese fighting thing, which never came over to America.
And we couldn't get anybody who weren't as interested in doing it.
Nobody was interested, really, in a Chinese lead.
And he was really anxious to become an American television star.
He wanted to be a star. I mean, he was just driven to that stardom.
I said, there is no way, Bruce, that you're going to ever get to really be seen here in America unless you have a piece of film. And it's not just the Green Hornet, that's television.
Bruce was too much for television. I mean, he was bigger than television.
So when Raymond Chow offered him the, I think it was The Big Boss, it was called, the first one, he said, well, I'm getting a little bit. I said, take it. And he went back to Hong Kong because he didn't get the role in Kung Fu.
After Bruce went back to Hong Kong, he became miraculously successful. I mean, he became like the Beatles, that overnight hit in the Far East.
He'd never achieved that before in any time. I was on television where I guess they had a group of martial artists, and they were all breaking ice and bricks with their heads and with their elbows and everything, and they asked Bruce, who was sitting there looking askance at all of that, I said, well, what do you think about all of this? Well, I think that he can break ice with his elbow, or that he can break bricks. Well, what does that have to do with anything? That doesn't, well, okay, Mr. Smartass, let's see what you can do. And he says, no, I don't do any demonstrations. And everybody in the audience went, rah, 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 rah. And so he says, okay, just wrap up 3 of those square boards, foot wide, and put some tape on them. And so he yelled it out there, and he dropped it and side-kicked it, and it shattered. It just blew. It went up in the lights, and the lights went pow, pow, pow. And Bruce was he said, I was so shocked because he'd never done that thing before. It was just something that came to his mind. Pow! He acted his way back to his chair like nothing had happened. I mean, after that, of course, Run Run Shaw and Raymond Chow and everybody started vying for his attention.
Bruce and I spent a lot of time, went out. Bruce was interested in the project, there was no question. Raymond, on the other hand, was soft. And why was Raymond soft? Because he was making so much money on the pictures, he still wanted to have complete control and everything. So Raymond said, well, it's a shame it's not going to work. So we'll have dinner tonight. And so we went out to a Japanese restaurant, and we sat down for dinner, and as we're going through the meal, I said, Bruce, I'm leaving tomorrow. He said, why? I said, well, it's obvious that Raymond doesn't want you to be an international star. He understands that you're great as a local chop sake guy, but Raymond doesn't. And he turned around to Raymond and said, make the deal. At which point the next day, Raymond made the deal.
And we have found this young writer who had no real credits, but it's somebody that I had an eye on for a while.
And then, Paul, you got this cockamamie writer who I had never heard of, who you love, Michael Allen.
You called me in and you said, we've got this wonderful, amazing guy named Bruce Lee. He makes movies in Hong Kong. You've never seen anything like it. Guess what? I want you to write a movie for him.
And he came up and he turned out a wonderful first draft.
It was wonderful because I didn't know anything about martial arts. I didn't know anything about Hong Kong, and I was learning along the way.
We really blocked it out.
It was so exciting, and I'll tell you the kind of energy we had on it. We did the first draft of the screenplay in 3 weeks, which is unheard of.
It happened so quickly because I think that Bruce was getting so hot.
And he had gone back to Hong Kong, I think, in '71, and virtually in less than a year, he couldn't walk down the street. He was a major Asian star in Hong Kong.
He knew that if he kept making Chinese chopsakis, he'd stay in China the rest of his life. And he was anxious to show Coburn and McQueen and all the rest that he was an international, star.
We wanted to present him as this incredible, force of nature.
It was designed and executed for a particular star in a genre. And it had a real purity in that sense.
But he needed to be one of three. He needed to be the coolest of three heroes. And we worked very hard, consciously creating an international kind of movie that would present Bruce properly.
Well, when we got started, and there was very little time to do all these things, and the script had been sort of roughed in, and we knew a little bit about what we needed, we really needed to get some sets built if we were going to ever make the schedule. When I was a kid, I grew up with this comic strip called Terry and the Pirates. And Terry and the Pirates was about China and the Orient and the mystery and dragon ladies. It was high chroma reds, blues, golds, and it just lent itself to this project so closely. Well, I brought in a sketch artist I knew named Dale Hennessy. Dale and I sat down and worked out the basic sets for the piece. The biggest one of all, the full studio-sized set, was the cave. Some of the prison areas where Bruce got caught in the cell and the doors clanging down. And then in the other studio, the banquet hall. These are large sets that need a lot of thought. We put together enough material for me to bring over to Hong Kong and turn over to the Chinese designers. And they in turn took it and interpreted it, and I think did an outstanding job.
I think what Bob Klaus, the director, and I tried to do was to take the magical element of Hong Kong and bring a photographic style to that. Sometimes you'd look down a hallway and not see anybody until they came into the light. And I remember Bob was very insistent that he wanted it to be absolute black and then come into the light. And lighting-wise, that's kind of a challenge. Rather than light the whole cave, we used pools of lighting to try to make it very dramatic. We used smoke to sort of haze it out. Bob did this very neat shot from up above, and looking at it, it was kind of blah. It was just a bunch of people walking around down there. So someone had the idea to get like 100 bird cages. So we'd shoot through the bird cages, so you couldn't really see what was going on. You didn't really know who these people were, what was going to happen. So what we try to do, lighting-wise, is to add to that, to make it dramatic, to make it exotic.
Freddie and I talked about this at length, and the big problem is, how do you have a film loaded with action in a contemporary situation where the hero has no guns?
Now, why doesn't somebody pull off 45 and bang, settle it?
No guns. Han would never allow guns on the island anyway. He had a bad experience with them once, and he's fearful of assassination. Can't really blame him. Any bloody fool can pull a trigger.
I guess I won't need anything.
And the villain creates the hero. You need a really sensational, I wanted Han to be the devil.
Gentlemen, welcome. You honor our island.
But the devil who believed in something and was dedicated to it, which is the worst kind of villain.
We create ourselves through long years of rigorous training, sacrifice, denial, pain.
We put into work an idea, which we cleared with Dick Marr at first, of Hans Island.
Hans Island never really existed. I mean, we needed to establish an island in the film. One of the actors was a pilot. We took off in his little single-engine plane, took the door off. I got my camera out, And we started taking pictures of islands, took pictures of mansions, and put them all together into one composite photograph that became the Hans Island of the film. The pilot of the plane was Roy Chow, who played the monk in the monastery at the opening.
And by the way, we shot that on a tennis court.
Well, we found a series of step tennis courts that were just marvelous.
But nobody notices. If you look closely in the film, you'll notice the lines on the greenery. We had to paint them all over with green.
I mean, they don't look like tennis courts. They look like fields where a man like Han would be working with his army of martial artists.
I was used to crews from Hollywood that were very experienced. And so the crew was like the equipment taking a step back in time.
The lab we used for developing the film was the filthiest place I've ever seen. Cobwebs hanging, dust inches thick. How we got a film that looks like the film we got out of there, I will never know.
And the tools for lighting were very simple. In Hollywood, you had a lot of tools to control light. And over there, I think we had window screen, black paper, rope, and clothespins.
I think the most difficult part of it was that we had come up with a very ambitious film, and we worked very hard to pull it off.
The whole electrical crew didn't speak any English, and so I tried to get a communication going there.
When we started, all we had was Chinese crews.
So I got about 10 words of Chinese and wrote them on a little card, like turn the light on, turn the light off.
The whole process was slower than we had hoped for. I mean, the biggest problem was communication.
Obviously, my Chinese wasn't very accurate because most of the times when I would say something, they just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
As we went along, we learned about the crew, they learned about us, and we came up with a very positive way of making things work.
But we had a very good time, and they were very hardworking. And once we actually started doing things where we would turn a light on and I would go over and show them what we wanted, they were very accommodating.
The skill of the Chinese craftsmen working at things that they knew how to do was just outstanding.
Bob had an idea for the island when we came there to sort of fill up the frame with a lot of flags. So we had some flags made, and then we needed some flag poles. Well, there weren't any. So we had them made.
I'll never cease to be amazed when this old man came in with a bag of plaster, some sticks and wire, and at the end of the day there'd be a 4-foot temple dragon or a 6-foot statue of a Chinese warrior.
And they just did a wonderful job.
I mean, the casting of the film was really kind of amazing.
We selected John Saxon because we had heard that he was very interested in martial arts.
The interest in karate was spreading all over the place. That was the reason why I decided to do it.
I was surprised at how good he was.
Yeah.
Talking over how to do the scene in the golf course with Bob Klaus and Fred Weintraub, I felt I had to demonstrate to them what I meant. So I began doing all kinds of leaping kicks that I could do at that time, scissor kicks and so on.
I know he worked really hard during the shooting.
But I felt that I had sufficient preparation, I thought, to do a movie, I was a little overestimation.
And I think when he got to Hong Kong, he really saw these guys working, and he was working every day.
It was, I think, about 8 days of continuous fight scene stuff